step this way for the Spanish Inquisition. Just a little coffee talk, okay, like butter.
And now, broadcasting live on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network, this is Elevation 5280 Sports with Matt Mascarenas.
Want me to invite Matt?
Yeah, the whole gang. Matt included.
The Denver freaking Nuggets are the number one seed in the Western Conference, and they are coming for that you-know-what. There is nothing that can stop this team. Strap in with me. It is time to watch a Denver Nuggets championship run.
And Michael Spillett.
All work and no play makes Michael a dull boy.
Yeah, I'm excited for this Denver Nuggets playoff push. I'm excited for the rest of the season, but Matt, they cannot be losing to teams like Orlando on the road, like Memphis on the road, but I'm excited either way, and it is going to be a fantastic finish. They are almost in the exact same championship window the Avs were in last year. And speaking of the Avs, do not count them out just yet.
Matt's an okay dude, but he's a dummy.
Michael!
Oh, that's funny. Michael!
Now, Matt and Michael are on.
As always, on these Sunday mornings. Matt, how the heck are you?
I'm doing wonderful. That video was freaking cool. That was freaking cool. We didn't get to see it last week, but I'm excited we got to see it this week. That was freaking cool. But yeah, I'm doing great. I went and got the kids some McDonald's this morning for breakfast. So we had hot cakes, potato cakes, sausage McGriddles, bacon McGriddles. So I'm loaded up, ready to go. I got some coffee rolling right here. I'm ready to go. How are you doing this morning?
Good. I was going to ask you, what do you get at the old Mickey D's for breakfast? I'm personally just a plain I love the McGriddles.
Yeah.
Plain sausage McGriddle person with a hash brown, of course.
Yep.
Or sometimes you switch it up and get the hotcakes. You got to.
Yep. I think McDonald's, as far as the fast food world goes, and I don't, this isn't like a hot take on the hotcakes or anything like that, but I think they have probably the best breakfast as far as any fast food out there. They got probably the best breakfast out there.
Yeah, it's up there. Someone was telling me about Wendy's breakfast, so I went on and tried it, and it was pretty fire, Matt. Not gonna lie, I forgot what I got. Honestly, it was some kind of a breakfast sandwich, but it was pretty good. But yeah, I don't think nothing beats the Golden Arches.
No, and I've had the Wendy's breakfast. I like how they use like the hamburger buns for when you make your breakfast sandwich. I like that. I like it's kind of like, I had a bacon sandwich, I think it was, and it was pretty good. And they got like a little butter sauce that they put on there. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. It was pretty fire. It was pretty fire.
Yeah, it was good. And yeah, now I'm hungry. Now I'm absolutely starving. So
you're welcome.
Yeah. Might have to head over to the old Golden Arches. But we are with you. A lot to talk about today. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, everything that has to do with us and the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Like the Facebook page, Rocky Mountain Sports Network, Instagram at RockyMTNSN, on Twitter at RM Sports Network. You can follow Matt right there on your screen. If you're listening at Matt Mascarenas 1, it looks like a lowercase L with the font, but it is a 1. And I'm at Michael Spillett at 5280 Sports Radio. And you can do the YouTube channel as well at 5280 Sports Radio, as we are live on our Facebook, our YouTube, and our Twitter. And make sure you hit up Rocky Mountain Sports Network as well. A lot to get into today, Matt. As you can see, the title of our episode is franchise tagging and stat padding. Mm-hmm. So we will get into all of that. We'll see who the Broncos place the franchise tag on. There's only, Matt, there's only 3 names that have been brought up in franchise tag discussions, and only one franchise tag has been placed in the NFL, and that is Commanders defensive tackle Darren Payne. He's the only guy. And so he will make almost $19 million in 2023. And if you don't know how the franchise tag works, you can place this on a player until you work out a long-term deal. And the deadline is actually in 2 days, Matt.
Right.
March 7th is the franchise tag deadline. So we might see a flurry of franchise tags being flown around. And 2 reported deals is Josh Jacobs for the Las Vegas Raiders. They are expected to put the tag on him. He had a career high 1,653 yards last season for the Raiders, 12 touchdowns. And also the Jaguars tight end Evan Ingram is expected to get the franchise tag. He had 73 catches for 766 yards and 4 touchdowns. So we're curious to see who the Broncos will place the franchise tag on. And a lot of players hate this time because they want a long-term deal. I would think it's kind of a double-edged sword, Matt, because sure, you want a long-term deal, but you're going to make a butt ton of money for 1 year. And if you look at paying for the Washington Commanders, man, he's going to make $19 million for 1 year, and it's all guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
They still have time to work out a long-term deal as well during that time, but you only have and I forgot the date that you have actually to make a long-term deal with the franchise tag place. So interesting to see who the Broncos will designate as the franchise tag.
Yeah, it's because it's like who's worth this team putting the franchise tag on this season. There was talk about Draymond Jones, right? They were talking about doing that with him, but it's really because I really haven't really dug in. I mean, are they going to put it on somebody like a Kareem Jackson or something like that? Is that where they're going to go with it? So I'm really, really curious to see what they do and if they do put somebody on the franchise tag and stuff like that. And it's around the league too. Like you mentioned, a lot of people hate playing on that franchise tag because it's like that they might get insulted, like we can't come up with the deal now, so we're going to franchise you so you don't go anywhere so we can figure something out. You've seen it work in for us for here in Denver with Von Miller. Remember Von Miller? They had him on the tag for so long, and then did they tag him or was it Demaryius Thomas? There was somebody. It was one of those two. I remember they tagged him, and then they finally ended up signing him, and then because like you said, I think it's like July or is it August till they have or something around that time frame. I remember it was like preseason and they finally got it done. So it can work to the advantage of the team, but the player who was it Kirk Cousins that played on a franchise deal for like 4 years straight.
Something crazy like that.
So it works, and he made a lot of freaking money doing that too. So yeah, I mean the franchise tags are very, very interesting. Very, very interesting to say the least.
Yeah, so we'll see who the Broncos place it on. And like you said, players don't like it. It is a guaranteed contract for a year. So I think that you make the average or something like that of that position if you get the franchise tag. So it could work out for some players. There was actually a report that came out of tying Josh Jacobs to the Denver Broncos, Matt. They're going to need a number 2 running back. We don't know. Latavius Murray, I think it's safe to say he's a journeyman now. We'll see what his position on the team is if he comes back. He has a little bit of history with Sean Payton as well with the New Orleans Saints. So we'll see what happens with him. If you heard Sean Payton and George Payton, the Paytons, and if you heard the Paytons talk at the Combine the other day, Matt, all news and reports are that Javonte Williams will be okay to go by the start of the season. But if he's not, Matt, who do you even have in that place? I don't know where Mike Boone is. I don't know where Latavius Murray is. The last couple of years, Matt, it's just been kind of a hodgepodge of running backs, especially last season with Javonte going out so far early in the season.
Right.
You just kind of had to throw guys out there. Murray, savvy vet that he is, ended up having a decent year for being brought in pretty late. But who's this team's number 2 running back?
Right now, I mean, it's as far as who's ever on the roster and is active on the roster, I guess, because I think Chase Edmonds is going to be a free agent too, or he's not under contract. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I thought I was reading something like that because they were looking at. I think what they might do, what I'm starting to see is they're going to look into this running back free agent class. But if Javonte is that far ahead of schedule, or because he tore everything in his knee the way I understood it, so for him to be that far ahead of schedule is pretty freaking impressive. Is it a little bit like is it a little too is it too much to ask for that guy to come in and be a running back in the NFL after that happened so soon? I don't know, but I think they're going to take a good look at this running back free agent class. You've seen Sean Payton, hint or when he was interviewing JJ there, Josh Jacobs, that they were, going back a little funny back and forth kind of situation. That would be awesome. But I mean, how much money are they going to pay to these guys? I've seen people talking about Saquon Barkley. That's going to be a big investment in a running back that you're only going to have for tops, maybe a couple seasons at their best, with these guys, especially Saquon Barkley, who's had major surgery, who's had a major injury. And then, Miles Sanders has been linked here. I think he's kind of getting long in the tooth. The tread's could be getting a little wary on those tires. So it depends on the price tag of some of these guys that are out there. I just think Tony Pollard is out of the question because I think he might get franchise tagged with Dallas. Because you got to look at a lot of these people might get tagged too. Saquon Barkley might get tagged. If Daniel Jones doesn't get tagged, he might get tagged. So, and Josh Jacobs might get tagged, like we just mentioned. So, with the free agent running backs, you got to see a lot of moving parts and everything. But I could definitely see the Broncos looking at one of these guys to bring him in here. But I would love it if they signed Latavius and they kept him here. I think he did well. He's played with Sean Payton. He's got the history there. I think it would be a perfect fit to just leave him here. He's got the continuity. He knows everybody here in the building. Sign him here. There's no reason why to think that it would be a mistake to sign him. I don't know how much it would be, but yeah, I would think you focus on getting that guy back probably, and then look into what you have here in the running back free agent class. And I wouldn't be shocked if they draft somebody too.
Yeah, and going back to the franchise tag really quickly, the each team has until July 15th to work out a long-term deal, and that's under the franchise tag. And again, 2 days from now is the deadline for teams to place franchise tags on guys. And they once that happens, they head into the free agent pool. So like you mentioned, Latavius Murray, always a good option, maybe a 1 year, $2 million deal. I think that's right around the arena that you could get that deal done. And again, if Javonte isn't ready, you always have him. You always have Latavius. Like you said, they could draft somebody. And I'm going to bring up the free agent pool for running backs. And I mentioned Josh Jacobs in a couple of reports, Matt, and this is like ESPN report, CBS Sports report tied to the Broncos, because last year was his last year of his deal, which is why the Raiders might place the franchise tag. And again, they have a whole nother 2 months to get a long-term deal done under the franchise tag. So you have that luxury of having that extra time to get a long-term deal done. But I like the Latavius Murray coming back, even if Javonte is good to go, even if you bring in a bigger name, so to speak, Matt, he's still there for insurance, because you don't know how Javonte is going to come back. Like you mentioned, coming back kind of quick. But if you look at past running backs who had this surgery and had this injury, look at AP, Matt. What was that?
Yeah.
Comeback player of the year. I think he almost had 2,000 rushing yards the year he came back from an ACL. And guess what, Matt? He only sat out 7 months.
Right.
Crazy.
And he's a beast. He's an anomaly. That's a great example, though. It's a great example. And like, ACLs for running backs in particular, they used to be death sentences in the past. Like, if you tear an ACL, your career is pretty much on a very, very short time frame after that. But with the recent, developments and the recoveries and the things that they're doing in the field of all that, I don't even know what you want to call it, physical therapy, whatever it is. There's the advancements that we have in 2020 freaking 3 are pretty impressive. So to get the dude back by then, it would be tremendous. And like you mentioned this running back class. One dude, and this is all getting franchise tags. One guy that I would love to have here and that I think would fit into this offense or whatever Sean Payton's going to do is Samaje Perine. Now, I don't know if the Cincinnati Bengals, because Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine are both supposed to be impending free agents this season, I would imagine they're going to franchise one of those guys if they're not, I would imagine one of those guys get franchise tag. And that means the other one would probably be free to sign if they don't get signed, both of them. But Samaje Perine, in my opinion, is probably the best back out of that Cincinnati backfield. And that would be somebody if they don't go with, if Javonte doesn't, if they decide to go with one of these guys here, I think Samaje Perine could be somebody you can get, maybe not on the cheap, but maybe he won't be as expensive as some of these other guys in that top tier and give you the same production as some of those guys. Samaje Perine is freaking good running back. So I would be curious to see if they would look into something like that, one of those guys.
Well, here is some of the top names, and I'm not going to go through this whole list, but like
it's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, Saquon Barkley, as you mentioned, he's going to not only demand but get a bag. He's going to get a lot of money. Kareem Hunt from Cleveland is a unrestricted free agent, probably too expensive. Rashad Penny from Seattle, that's an interesting name. Reunite him and Russell Wilson. Jamal Williams from Detroit had an outstanding year.
I love him. That dude's a good running back. He's with the Packers, man. I like that dude.
And he's going to get a lot of money. He's going to get a good deal after the season he just had. We mentioned Josh Jacobs, Mark Ingram from the aforementioned New Orleans Saints, the Denver
blast from the past.
There you go. Rex Burkhead from Houston. Raheem Mostert from Miami is a free agent as well. And Mike Boone is a unrestricted free agent. So I don't see him coming back, Matt. And he's one of those insurance guys as well, kind of a third guy, special teams guy, what have you. Boston Scott from the Philadelphia Eagles. And as you mentioned, Samaje Perine, Ronald Jones, Mike Sanders. So Philadelphia not only lost all the coordinators, they might be losing all the running backs as well. Giovanni Bernard, forgot about this guy from Tampa Bay. Didn't even know he was on Tampa Bay. This is an intriguing one for me, Matt, is Jerick McKinnon had an outstanding year for the champion Chiefs. Outstanding year. Not only running the ball, but this dude can catch out of the backfield as well. Matt Breida, another guy out there. Our old buddy Royce Freeman, Latavius Murray, as we mentioned as well. So those are just some of the guys, Matt. Devin Singletary is on that list as well from Buffalo. David Montgomery from the Chicago Bears on that list as well. So a lot of guys that they could consider if they want to go the free agent route, Matt. As you mentioned, Perine, and I'm going to throw in Jerick McKinnon are on that list, and they're my top two free agents that the Broncos should look at. I want to say Jamal Williams, but he's going to get a lot of money for the season he just had in Detroit.
Yeah, and I think he's going to end up back there with Detroit. I think he's found a fit and a home there. And yeah, it's really interesting because you see you've named a couple of running backs on teams that are they're 1A 1B kind of situation. We already mentioned Samaje Perine, Joe Mixon. They're going to have to decide which one of those guys they want to keep. And the Dallas Cowboys, they're looking at keeping Tony Pollard over Ezekiel Elliott. Of course, they're not going to keep Ezekiel Elliott. That dude's he's fallen off, but he's even said he'll take a pay cut or whatever it is to stay with the Cowboys. So there's a lot of those situations there that and the Cleveland situation, like you mentioned, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Is there somebody? Is Cleveland would be crazy not to place the franchise tag on at least Chubb? Kareem Hunt maybe not, but at least Chubb. So there's going to be a good option to snag a running back here, and it just depends on how much it's going to cost and how much the Broncos in this case want to pay. But yeah, those guys you mentioned, I'd love to have Jamal Williams here. That would be pretty. It's going to be pretty interesting to see this running back class. This thing is freaking stacked with players.
Yeah, and I feel like Jamal Williams and it would be the Williams and Williams law firm if they were.
That'd be pretty freaking cool.
Yeah. Do you put and both of their names start with a J? So do you put? Remember the old days when you had multiple guys with the same last name, like it was Neil Smith and Rod Smith, so it said N Smith for Neil, and then it said R Smith, and then you had, I think there was like 3 or 4 Williams back then. So Darren Williams just he said F it, I'm putting my whole name on the back of this jersey.
R.I.P. man, R.I.P. Yep.
And then if you had multiple guys with like J Williams, like you might see here, you put like J.A., but they're both J.A. So then what do you do?
And it's even like with the Paytons too. Like they're going to confuse their jerseys too. The Paytons are going to grab the wrong jerseys. Like they're going
to grab the wrong suit bag and wear each other's suit. But you would have to put J. Like, well, I know they don't do this anymore with the first initial and last name. They just put whatever on there. But still, it's something to think about.
It is. It definitely is.
Can you? But going back to what I said, I think both of these Williams guys, I feel like they're almost the same running type. Just ground and pound. They both have pretty good speed once they get into the open field. Pretty good moves, eluding tackles, breaking tackles. But I feel like they're almost the same kind of back. That ground and pound. Just run between the tackles and stuff like that. I mean, would that work for this offense, or do you need that change of pace back? Because, Jamal's in there for what, first down, second down, maybe third down. We didn't see him a lot in third and short situations, but I would like him in those third because he's just a ground and pounder. Like I said, he just bowls people over. He's the guy who led the team or led the NFL, in broken tackles.
Yeah. I think what it would be, the situation would be, is it would be beneficial because you kind of use Jamal or even Latavius. Let's say Latavius can be this person too. If they stay with Latavius, use that person as your 1, 2, 3 down, or your 1, 2 first, second down back, get those yards, pound them, beat them up the middle, outside, whatever it is you're doing. And then throw to Javonte on the third down, or bring Javonte in as a third down back and not give him as many reps until he gets healthy. It could be beneficial that way for these two guys. Or, there's probably going to be a third running back here too. I would imagine that, you use these guys on different series. And you've seen Sean Payton in the past with Ingram, with even Kamara there, Latavius Murray. There's another running back they had there too for a while that was just a monster. And they would each series, you would almost see a different back, a different style, and then some series it would be both of them. So I think Peyton loves to use those two backs, and to have a back that kind of does the same thing would be good in the meantime to get Javonte back to doing what he needs to do, and then you can really open up with those because they can both catch passes out of the backfield. I think Jamal's a little bit more downhill kind of a guy. He's bigger and he's a little bit more powerful when it's going downhill. Not saying he's more powerful than Javonte in general, but just when he's going downhill and between the tackles especially. But it could be a, pick your poison type of deal. Like, it's the same kind of deal, but I think Peyton can utilize what they do best and get the best out of them. And that's what he does with those kind of running backs in that situation. It's exciting to see, though, man. I'm pretty stoked for it.
He might just say, "Screw it, let's re-sign Latavius. Let's bring in Mark Ingram. We're already the Denver Saints."
There you go.
And just
bring in Michael Thomas. See what Maurice Colston's doing. To see if Colston's still out there, we can bring him in.
Jimmy Graham. Let's get these guys going.
Get him back here. Shockey, isn't he? Didn't he play, tight end for a little bit for them? Or who else? We can get all them guys back. Kamara?
Actually, it's funny because Alvin Kamara also in reports in getting out of New Orleans and possibly rejoining Sean Payton. Again, this is all just hearsay and scuttlebutt, So we'll see what happens with this running back situation. But a lot of good guys on the free agent list, and we'll see what they go. They could draft a guy. That's always an option as well. But we said Latavius Murray, Mike Boone is on that free agent list. And we'll see who the franchise tag gets placed on. That's going to be the next step or possibly the next whatever you call it in the Broncos calendar in this off season. So one more quickly before we switch topics, Matt, are you watching the Underwear Olympics?
No, I'm not, I'm not going to say I'm not a big fan of it because there's some pretty cool stuff that they do, but no, because I guess I'm one of those fuddy-duddies that it's like, what are they? Are they actually, is this football skills competition or is this track and field? Like, I don't know what this stuff has to do with football and I know people are going to go crazy, but it's just like I just see the things that they're doing, and I don't know how does that make me think I want to have them on my football team because they can jump real high or they can run in a straight line real fast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Speaking of the straight line real fast, DJ Turner the second so far leads the 40-yard dash in 4.26 seconds, Matt. So that's I guess that's pretty fast when you're not being chased by somebody and wearing zero pads.
And we're exactly.
Also, Corian Bennett, the cornerback from Maryland, posted a 4.3 40. And rounding out the top three, wide receiver from Nebraska, Trey Palmer, with a 4.33 40-yard dash. And also the other cornerback, from Maryland. So two cornerbacks from Maryland in the top four in 40-yard dashes. He posted a 4.35. So there you go.
That's
quick.
Impressive. Did they get a ribbon?
They did. Let me see here. Yeah, orange slices and Capri Suns.
Who won the egg race? I want to know who won the egg race or the potato sack race. What is that today? Did they do the potato sack races today?
Yeah. Who? They put on big sumo fat suits and had to push each other out of the circle. That's what they had to do.
Oh boy, it's I don't know. My God, I've never been a fan of the combine. I mean, it's cool to see them run fast and jump, but it's the combine makes the most busts because you wouldn't be a bust if you didn't, because there's people that these guys go to trainers to train to do these events. So they're not doing football plays. They're not doing football moves. They're going to a person to run the 40-yard dash faster and better. They're going to a person to learn to jump and do the shuttle and do the 3-cone shut. It's just like, I don't know, man. I've never been a fan of it, really.
Yeah, and maybe they'll change it up. And I was reading or hearing somewhere that they might either get rid of it or change it up. So we'll see. It's kind of like the Pro Bowl and All-Star games. But it's huge. And right now, it's 24/7 on the NFL Network. So if you want to go watch these guys, they are 24/7 on the NFL Network, so you can catch that. And speaking of guys running around in their underwear and stuff like that, Kendrick Perkins. I don't know if you've liked this guy. He had a pretty lengthy NBA career.
I couldn't stand him as an NBA player.
15 years in the association. Most notably known with the Thunder and the Celtics, but came out and said pretty outlandish things about homie Nikola Jokic. It's not Jokic, and I'm not going to say his name. Who said that? But and now the hometown hero is JJ Redick. I don't know if you've heard any of this. Go catch all of this. It's fantastic content, and even altitude zone here in Denver, Matt, Vic Lombardi got into it with Kendrick Perkins on Twitter. It's all good stuff. So go catch all of this. Go catch all of this. But Kendrick Perkins, going off on Jokic, saying he's not an MVP. He only won back-to-back MVPs because he's white. Look at Steve Nash and Dirk Nowitzki, and he went all the way back to like 1990 is where he cut it off, Matt. And the reason he didn't go further is because in the back-to-back before that was Magic Johnson. So he had to stop. He had to stop before he put all of his foot in his mouth. So this is funny. And if you heard the aforementioned Vic Lombardi interview Jokic in the locker room after one of the triple-doubles, it was after his 100th career triple-double, said, what does this mean to you? And Nikola Jokic just quote, well, it's easy when you're stat padding.
Yep.
and Kendrick Perkins said he's stat padding, and he could probably not give an F about his stats as long as the team wins.
That's our Joker, man. That's the biggest thing about all this is that it's funny how, and I understand that those dudes have to come up. Those dudes, I mean, like Kendrick Perkins, those types of people, they got to come up with stuff to say. They get paid to come up and get on the TV and to be polarized and to get people to come in and watch. Let me see what dumb crap this guy's going to say today, or let me see how he's going to tick off everybody, or let me see what he's going to say. I get it. But what he did was the biggest thing he did, and I think what's the worst thing about this is that he attacked a dude and basically said a guy's like a cheater. He's not a team player. He doesn't play the game right. Like that's kind of what he came out and he's saying. What he's saying about Nikola Jokic. I mean, you can do whatever you want with the saying that, you know, that the only 3 players that have done this since blah 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 that weren't the leading scorer and top 5, top 10 in scoring were white, and you can say the only reason I do is white. You can miss me with all that stuff, but I think that's a lame attempt at adding on to this whole debate. And yeah, like I was just like, come on, dude, I roll my eyes with that. But when you're attacking and saying a guy that there's never given any indication that he cares about his personal stats, like you said it, he doesn't give an F and he just wants to win games. And that's the worst thing about this is that Nikola's not even that dude. He's not that dude. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about the MVP. He might start caring about it this year, but I guarantee we all know he doesn't care about it. And I think that's the worst part of this is that he attacked a dude in Nikola Jokic in his personal love or his care for the game and said he's not playing the game right. And I think that's the worst part about all of this. And I think that's what affected Nikola the worst. And that's why Nikola came back, which he never comes back on these guys. Never. And I think that's why he got back. Somebody was in his ear. Somebody said something to him about it. And then Nikola, had it loaded, ready to go. And Vic, teed him up.
Yeah. And these guys hear what's being said, whether they say they do or not, Matt. And it's pretty obvious that he heard. And maybe he just heard because, he was watching ESPN one day. Maybe that's the only reason that he heard anything is because he was just watching TV. Who knows? But it is funny that he kind of clapped back at KP on that one. Carry on, that his little moniker there. And here's some of what,
carry the hell on.
Here's some of what was said. Kendrick Perkins said Jokic passes, his guys catch and shoot, no hesitation, good or bad shot. Players know their stats. And that was Kendrick Perkins accusing Nikola Jokic of stat padding. And, of course, Jokic's response to getting his 100th career triple-double says, when you're stat padding, it's easy. So there's some of it right there. And, yeah, maybe ESPN was just like, hey, KP, just go out and say something dumb. Just go out there. We need clicks. We need views. We need all this stuff. Just go out and say something stupid. We'll give you $1 million extra.
That's what it feels like, doesn't it, with some of these guys? And Richard Jefferson, for some reason, has an axe to grind with the Nuggets, and I don't know if it's from his time here, but he was even adding on to it. Like the thing is that these guys are reaching so bad that they're trying to say that attempting to win games by taking more shots and trying to make baskets is stat padding. Like Richard Jefferson was going, I don't know if you saw this, but he was going off on Twitter with somebody about how it was curious how Nikola got to a point where he needed a couple rebounds and then he got the rebounds, but then he needed a couple assists. So he stopped shooting and then he started passing to an open guy for a dunk. And Richard Jefferson was saying that's stat padding. It's like, no, it's not. You're trying to win the game. You're like the whole point of this is that they're reaching so hard is that they're blaming this guy for not taking shots that he has that are open and passing to a guy for a layup open shot instead. Like that's what they're doing now. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that they're doing that. And I don't know if it's the jealousy of these former NBA players that because this guy doesn't come out and be sexy and do all AAU, all the hezzies, you know, and he's not coming tapping his head or saying you're short, you're little, too small. He's not doing that stuff. And I don't know if it's these guys are getting jealous because he's so good and he's not doing that. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Now I sound like Kendrick Perkins and Richard Jefferson, but I don't know what it is, and I don't understand it other than, like you said, hey, ESPN, let's tell these guys to go out there and say something stupid so we can get clicks. That's what it looks like right now.
It does. And it's just, I don't know. And I'm going to play a little bit of the exchange that what Kendrick Perkins says, and then JJ Redick's response to it was
epic.
And this isn't from his podcast. He has like Old Man and a 3 podcast. This is actually from First Take, Kendrick Perkins and JJ Redick. Maybe not. Let me push unmute.
That's cool.
There you go. JJ Redick, absolutely fantastic. And if listen to his podcast too. I think it's called Old Man and the 3 podcast with JJ Redick. And that's where he said, "What the F are you watching?" You know, and even Stephen A was, if you watch the video, and I'm not a huge Stephen A. Smith fan, but if you watch the video, Matt, even Stephen A. is just sitting there with his jaw dropped, like,
Yep.
Is this dude really saying this?
Yeah, I was because he's kind of Stephen A. I've noticed that he's kind of been I don't know if he's like because those shows they have to take one side or the other, right? Have you noticed that? Like Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless, for example. Skip's the Embiid guy, Sharp's the Jokic guy, and then when they battle about LeBron, Shannon's a LeBron guy. And Skip's against LeBron. And then when they battle about Brady, Brady's Skip's the Brady guy, and Shannon's against Brady. So they go back and forth. So I don't know if Stephen A's like starting to turn face and be for the Nuggets and for Nikola. So it's like professional wrestling with these dudes, man. It's like they go back and forth. The heel face, good guy, bad guy. It's crazy. I can't keep up with it. But yeah, I noticed Stephen A, and I'm even starting to be like, man, I kind of like Stephen A. I'm riding with Stephen A now, you know? When before I'm like, God, you're just saying the dumbest stuff.
And his response was, "Are you saying that Nikola Jokic is stat padding?" I mean,
yeah.
And again, behind the scenes, you know, these networks might just go, "Hey, you know, you're taking one side, you're playing devil's advocate, you're doing this, you're doing that," and some of the stuff could be against what the guy truly believes, and so yeah, we don't know the behind the scenes of it, but it was a funny exchange. You can tell I think because it's on video, it's out there in the world, Matt, that Stephen A's response was pretty genuine. JJ Redick was sitting the entire time with his hands or his face in his hands because he was dumbfounded at this. And again, Kendrick Perkins could have just been told, hey, just go out there and say it. Like,
go out there.
Everybody can't be on the Joker train, so we need somebody to play devil's advocate.
Because and Perkins said some stuff earlier in the season about Joker, about the Nuggets, and this was kind of when before and it was kind of funny because the national media had to accept the Nuggets. They had to look at the Nuggets and say, yeah, they're the number 1 seed in the West. Yeah, they're the team to beat. I don't see anybody. They had to do it until the Mavericks traded for Kyrie, and then Phoenix got Kevin Durant. Now they don't have to talk about the Nuggets being the best in the West anymore. They could talk about Phoenix being the best in the West. They could talk about the Lakers. The Lakers at one point last week, Mike, they were talking about the Lakers. At one point that they were good. There was actually a vote on. Did you see this? I'm sure you saw this live on air. I don't remember who exactly it was, but they all raised their hands. And Vince Carter. I mean, I love Vince Carter, but they all raised their hands. I think the Lakers could beat the Nuggets in a first-round playoff series. And then the next day, LeBron James is out for 2-3 weeks. And then Anthony Davis doesn't play the next game. I mean, give me a freaking break. Can we just it's crazy. It's crazy how much they do this stuff.
Yeah, and we touched on it last week. I think it was it Stephen A? No, or I don't forget who it was now. It might have been Stephen A. who said if the Lakers were to make the play-in tournament round and win that, they would win a first-round series matchup. And everyone's saying the Nuggets need to avoid the Lakers.
I know. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe when they said that. And then, like with the Lakers, they're looking at it like they're talking about Malik Beasley as being the next best thing. Jared Vanderbilt's the greatest player on defense because of what they did to Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks don't play defense. They are a horrible defensive team. Horrible defensive team. So when the Lakers came back from down 28 or whatever it wasn't a shock because the Dallas Mavericks refused to play defense. So there was just so much going on. And even with the Phoenix Suns, it drives me crazy. The only thing I will give credit to or that I will look at and be kind of like, okay, I don't want to see them is, have you seen what Golden State's doing? Golden State's getting healthy. They're getting better. That's the only team, and I've said this from the beginning, that's the only team that makes me a little worried if you got to see them in the first round.
Well, I was worried about Memphis, and maybe it was justified as the Nuggets got a big win against Memphis on Friday,
Huge one.
13-97. The game before that destroyed Houston. That was a kind of a get right game for maybe a Jamal Murray. But going back to last week, Matt, where the Nuggets won in overtime against the Clippers. Speaking of the Clippers, how about 0-5 since trading for Russell? Poor guy, man. This poor guy. I mean, he just cannot do anything right. And dating back to last week too, Matt, losing in Memphis. That was the game that I was like, oh man. And they were able to get some redemption the other night. They'll play Toronto tomorrow, and then the Bulls at home in a couple of days as well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. The Western Conference is, it's up and down. It's fluctuating, but the Nuggets are staying even keel, even pat at the number 1 seed. How about Milwaukee taking over the number 1 seed over in the Eastern Conference? Boston is now second in the Eastern Conference. Philadelphia got a huge win, stopping Milwaukee's 16-game winning streak yesterday, Matt. So there is that. And Brooklyn staying afloat, Matt. You know how the Mendoza line in baseball, the Mendoza line now in basketball, Matt, is that 6th seed staying out of the play-in tournament, and Brooklyn's just hovering right above that, Matt, 2 games up on the Miami Heat. In the Western Conference, we mentioned it. You mentioned the Dallas Mavericks staying right there. Matt, remember how from the 6th seed on in the Eastern Conference, you could have a losing record and still make the playoffs. The Eastern Conference this year, Matt, is way better. The 6th seed is Brooklyn, as I mentioned, 35-28. Miami, 34-31. Atlanta, 32-32, and that's where it ends. Because originally, up until a couple years ago, that was the cutoff, the 8th seed. But now the 7 through 10 seeds make the play-in round, and you have Toronto at 9, 32 and 33, Washington at 30 and 33. And so, and over in the West, it's kind of the same now. Clippers 33 and 33 are that 8 seed, Utah 31 and 33, and the Pelicans, who were number 1 in the West, Matt, at one point, have now fallen all the way down to 31 and 33, that 10th seed. So we're counting on the Pelicans, Matt, because the Lakers went from 13th to 11th now.
Mm-hmm.
So they are just one game out of that play-in tournament. But that's what the NBA is shaping up right now. And poor Houston, they're tanking for that one dude. Spurs at one point lost like 10 games in a row. So those teams are at the bottom of the barrel. I'm scared of Milwaukee, Matt. I think they match up well with the Nuggets if it were to get to that point. Boston matches up well. Nuggets have struggled against Boston this season. They've struggled against Milwaukee this season. They did lose to Philadelphia, but I wouldn't say I'm not worried about Philadelphia, but these are the teams that if it were to get down to the end of the road, Matt, these are the teams that I don't care about the play-in tournament. I don't really care about Cleveland, the Knicks, Brooklyn. I'm scared of those top 3 teams, and I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody's making a big deal about the Western Conference, but I think that it's the Nuggets. It's the Nuggets to lose. It's the Nuggets conference to lose. And then, I mentioned, the Warriors, they've won 5 in a row. Curry's getting better and better and getting healthier and healthier. And then you have Wiggins. Let's hope. I don't know when he's coming back, but if he does get back, look the hell out. That's the only team in the Western Conference that makes me kind of worried. I'm not worried about the Suns just because of what the Kevin Durant and that's it. And the Chris Paul. I don't trust those dudes. I don't trust Chris Paul, I should say. Kevin Durant's Kevin Durant. I don't trust Chris Paul. And there's nobody else on that team to play defense. So, outside of those 2 teams, the Nuggets just and we don't even know with what bang bang chicken wang John Morant's going to do there with his gun charge or all this gun stuff that he can't go without having a gun in his hand. So I don't even know if he's going to be ready for the playoffs. But yeah, the Bucks, and they're getting better. Middleton's better. They got Crowder. They're getting freaking better. And yet they have the best player in the world in Giannis Antetokounmpo. So yeah, the Bucks, they scare the crap out of me. Boston scares the crap out of me, even though they gave up a big lead in the other night on against Brooklyn, and Brooklyn came back. Brooklyn, I don't know if they're going to – this is funny. I almost said they should get a superstar, and they traded 2 away to get what they got. But Mikal Bridges, ever since he's came to Brooklyn, he has looked like an absolute all-star over there. So that team, if I was Eastern Conference, I'd be a little worried about seeing that Brooklyn Nets team in a playoff series. I'm not saying they're going to go out and beat somebody or upset somebody, but they're going to take somebody to the limit. I'd be a little worried if I was in that Eastern Conference facing the Nets. The Knicks even, man. The Knicks look pretty good. And the Hawks with Quinn Snyder taking over as their coach, they've looked a lot better. So I'm just I'm with you there on that Eastern Conference. Top to bottom, it's a lot better than it has been in the past. And I think we might see a little turn, and maybe the Eastern Conference might start to be that dominant conference as opposed to what the Western Conference used to be.
Yeah, and what is with Giannis, man? He's been clapping at some guys. I don't know if you've seen this when Kevin Durant joined the Phoenix Suns, and it wouldn't let me save the quote. But Giannis said, "quote You keep joining super teams to win an NBA title. How about we work out together sometime, so I can teach you how to carry your own team?" That was some fire from Giannis.
Straight fire
from Giannis. But he also said on Jokic, I don't know if you saw this, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "How are you?" And I'm trying to pull it up, but I'm going to be paraphrasing. He said, "How are you going to make it through to a championship when you can't even make it through the Burger King drive-thru?"
Yep.
Fire. Clap.
He was going off. I love it, man. I don't mind it. Like, especially a guy like that doesn't go off and doesn't do that very often. He always keeps quiet, says the right thing, says what he needs to say, and then finally he goes off and does this. I thought that was freaking awesome. I thought it was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, and coming from this is almost as I'm going to say it's almost as strange as Jokic saying, it's easy because you're stat padding. It's almost like that because Giannis usually doesn't do this kind of stuff. And maybe because now they're at the top of the Eastern Conference, he can kind of clap a little bit. But here's the Jokic tweet if you miss, or the Jokic quote if you missed it right there. And yeah, Giannis, it's crazy, and that's just that's un Giannis like, Matt.
It is. It's funny, and I think it was in the context because he was on the show, so they wrote some silly stuff for him, some jokey stuff for him, and the people, I don't know if you saw this, but like the Stephen A's and the Shannon Sharps, Skip Bayless, they didn't like it. They were all butthurt about it. Like I don't think Giannis should be doing that cross. Blah, 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 blah. Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, and this is context, and you can see right there Giannis reading the teleprompter, roasting Jokic on the Daily Show. So let's take that for what it is.
It's the Daily Show, exactly. Yeah.
So I did like what he said on Durant, though. Somebody needed to say it. I'm glad it was the Greek freak who said it.
And he's 100% correct. He's 100% right. Look at him. He leaves. He could have stayed there in Brooklyn, and kind of had people go. It's just mind-boggling to me, Mike, in general, how these guys can go to a team, be labeled as a superstars or be labeled as a champion, and not even make it to a championship game, then get traded to other teams, right? They go to other teams, and then those teams that they get traded to be right away anointed as championship contenders right away when the team they just left didn't do jack crap, right? But they go to another team and they get just anointed. So I love that Giannis, one of the dudes that have been just battered over the years of just people not giving him the props that he deserves until he won the championship. And then finally, he goes back on these guys because I think he is the greatest player in the world. Giannis is, and he has been for quite some time. And I think it's great. It's great. Whether it was in the context of being on the Daily Show, that he was able to be funny and to go at these dudes and because he can. I loved it. I would love to see Joker do it more too. I really would.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not like it was.
It's not like Joker, yeah.
And he was joking when he said it's easy when you're stat padding, and he was obviously joking and being sarcastic. But it's not like him to even do that.
No.
So there you go. Really quickly, before we move on to the Avs, really quick. This coming down through NFL Network, Matt. The Giants plan to use the franchise tag on quarterback Daniel Jones.
So Saquon's gone then, huh?
So there you go. Daniel Jones, the guy who trips over yard lines, will be most likely franchise tagged here in the next couple of hours. And so we will keep an eye on that as well. Speaking of deadlines, Matt, it was the NHL trade deadline a couple of days ago. The Avs did make some moves, Matt, and if you're not a diehard hockey fan, you will have zero clue who any of these guys are. And I think I mentioned the goalie that they brought in a couple of days ago. Maybe not. Yeah, we were on when.
Yeah, we talked about.
Yeah, we talked about it. So they did bring in Keith Kincaid, and it was funny because he hasn't played a game yet, but he was practicing, Matt, and he was still wearing his Boston Bruins like bright yellow gold pads, all blank white helmet because that's how new he was. He hasn't played yet, although he could have did better than Georgie did yesterday. I mean the obliteration by the Dallas Stars.
They hung a touchdown on him.
Yeah, I was driving and I got an update literally minutes into the game. Dallas 1-0. Minutes later, Dallas 2-0. Dallas 3-0. I'm like, oh my God, this is one of those games that they needed to win with Dallas ahead of them in the standings. Another move that they made, Matt, they bring back Jack Johnson, who was a key contributor on the defensive blue line last season.
Great guitar player.
Banana Pancakes for the Avalanche's Stanley Cup winning team last year. And then they make another small move, Matt. They get Gustav Rydal from the New York Rangers, and they send Antoine Blade to the Rangers. And that, so not a lot of big names, at least locally. Jack Johnson's a big name, whether it's the musician or the defensive player. Another big name, Another big name that Avs fans were just absolutely hoping for was Patrick Kane. He goes to the New York Rangers. And also a longtime Los Angeles King, Jonathan Quick, who won 2 Stanley Cups with the Kings in the off years that the Blackhawks didn't win with Patrick Kane. He goes actually to Columbus and then gets flipped a day later and gets sent to Vegas. Vegas, a good pickup there in Jonathan Quick. Since that initial move, Matt, Avs have had 2 just bad losses. One to New Jersey a couple days ago, and as I mentioned, to Dallas yesterday. The New Jersey game wasn't a must-win, but yesterday was a must-win, man. They gave up 14 goals in 2 games.
Does any of these moves that they made help you feel more comfortable about them going into the playoff? Does this bolster anything for you, or is it pretty much they got the core that they have and that's what they're going to roll with, and these were just pieces?
They're just pieces. I'm not excited about really any of them. I was excited, cool. Jack Johnson's back. He was a good defensive player. He was a third line defenseman last season, so he wasn't really a big move, but he brings experience back. He's back, and he's familiar with how the team plays. And it's funny because I've never been a Sammy G guy, a Samuel Girard guy, but he actually scored a goal yesterday. I wasn't, and he got knocked out of the playoffs. If you remember, he just got slammed and it broke his rib cage and his everything. Just well, and that's what happens when you're a small defensive guy like that. You're going to get pounded. And I've never been a Sammy G guy. His name was brought up in trade discussions. Speaking of the Avs, hopefully we will be getting an Avs show here pretty soon on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. So stay tuned for the socials for that. But it's crazy, Matt, because these moves, they didn't get better. They really didn't get worse. I guess that's the silver lining is they didn't get worse from it.
That's like you could tell that I feel like they're just waiting for guys to get healthy. They're still in that wait to get healthy phase. And who was it? Was it McCarr that got hurt again, or did he come back?
He was available yesterday, and I don't know if he played. I obviously can't watch the games, but I don't know if he played yesterday. I'll look it up here really quickly. But he was cleared. He cleared concussion protocol. So,
and I thought I was reading somewhere that Landeskog's skating again, right? He's getting back.
He's skating, but I don't know. And in hockey, it's weird because skating could mean you're still a month away. You still got to get up to game speed and stuff like that. So, skating is good. It is a good sign. Let's not sugarcoat that it is a good sign, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do because they got up all the way to second place, Matt.
I was going to say,
yeah, and Dallas is the top. Dallas is the Nuggets of the NHL Western Conference right now, 81 points. But think of it, Avs are at 73 points. You go on a 3-game win streak, you're right back in it. So that's and they play Seattle tomorrow. Seattle is above them in the standings as well. They're 3 points behind Seattle. So now the Avs sit in that back down to that second wild card spot. So they need these games. They needed last night, really. And I don't know if you're going to catch Dallas in the bigger picture, but you needed that game. New Jersey would have been a big win if they would have got that. It's funny how when Western Conference play, it's just almost like baseball, almost like the NBA, where you're playing a team from the different from the American League, or you're playing a team from a different conference. It's not a must win, but they need as much points as they can get.
Yeah, points are points, and you got to get those points. Else, they don't work, man. They don't work. And again, I see this, like you said, 14 goals in 2 games. Like the goaltending's making me nervous.
Yeah, and it was Georgie yesterday too, which is weird. And I think he was pulled late in that game, and then Dallas got an empty netter, so it was just ugly all around. But again, they play Seattle tomorrow. Need that game. And I was actually surprised that the Kings traded Jonathan Quick, because the Kings are at 80 points, man. They're 7 points above the Avs. And he goes to Vegas now. I don't know if you saw the poor fan in Columbus, got a Jonathan Quick jersey, and then a day later he was traded.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, poor guy.
That's unfortunate.
And Vegas right now 80 points. So and Edmonton 3 points ahead of them. So these are key games heading down the stretch, Matt. So they're in the thick of it, but they're pretty darn close of not being in the thick of it. So
can they make a run from the wild card position, or is that Western Conference is it just too tough to?
Yeah, I don't know if you can in hockey. I would say you need at least one series where you have the home ice advantage, and it might not happen for the Avs this year. And I don't have the stats in front of me where like your Packers were a wild card team and won the Super Bowl that year.
That one year,
Giants. I think the Giants won both of their Super Bowls as wild card teams, and one of them knocking off the undefeated Patriots. So it can happen in other sports. Hockey, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's especially this year in the Western Conference. I don't think it'll be. I don't think the odds are in the wild card's favor.
So they gotta get a seed. They gotta get in there, huh?
Yeah, and again, you rattle off 2-3 wins, you're right in the middle of it. But and like we mentioned, points. It's a good thing in hockey where you can go to overtime. You've already secured a point. You've already secured a point. So you don't want to go to overtime, but I mean, hey, going to overtime is better than losing. So even if you lose in overtime, Matt, you still get that point. So you
want to be positive, right? You don't want to be negative. You don't want to be. You want to be a +1.
Yeah. You want that. You need that 1 point. All right, Matt. Before we get on out of here, the Rockies went from winning 72 games to now winning 68 games, as Brendan Rodgers is now on the injured list, Matt.
He's done, right?
Yeah, they're saying he could miss the entire season. And it's funny how the trajectory of this guy's career is absolutely fascinating to me, Matt, because if you remember, maybe it was 2 seasons ago where he was batting like 182, again, below the dreaded Mendoza line. And if you're curious, the Mendoza line in baseball is batting 200. And even low 200s is pretty terrible. You want to be at least around 260 or higher. 300 is a very good season. But he might need shoulder surgery, and this is not good. This is not good for the Rockies. He was going to be, not the face, but a slight face of the franchise, dislocating his. I mean, I guess it's a good thing. It's not his throwing arm. I guess it's his left shoulder, but still, pretty significant injury.
Well, if you go back and you remember Professor Brightich. It was Brendan Rodgers that he went with over DJ LeMahieu in a sense. Because you remember the whole deal was when DJ LeMahieu was coming up to get a contract. He wanted to stay here. He didn't want to go anywhere. But there was too crowded at second base and or shortstop because Brendan Rodgers was going to go play second base. Remember? Brendan Rodgers was supposed to play second base. And then you had Story at shortstop, and then they let LeMahieu go. So this stuff happens way too much with this freaking team. Way too much.
Yeah, and the other teams that they're growing these guys for are not going to like this injury.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Brendan Rodgers was coming along pretty good. We were about to acquire him, and then now you guys have to go and hurt him. You're supposed to set him.
So, and the other injury was Tyler Kinley. Big injury here as basically he's going to need Tommy John surgery. He had a right elbow sprain and a flexor tendon tear, which sounds absolutely horrific. I don't know if I've ever had a flexor tendon tear, but it does not sound good. It's almost like tearing your pectoral and like guys in football. I mean, that just sounds bad. And if you're wondering, Brendan Rodgers this was his best statistical season last season, Matt, and he's only 26, which I guess is a good thing. He had 266, 13 homers, 63 RBIs in a career high 137 games played.
Wow. Well, we got Tovar, right? I mean,
yeah.
I hear this dude's supposed to be the next coming of Tulo and Trevor Story. Tulo, the greatest shortstop the Rockies have ever had in their entire franchise. You know what I mean? Number 2, Tulo. And they're comparing him to Tulo and Trevor Story. So this dude, man, I'm ready. I'm excited to watch that dude get groomed and ready for another franchise.
Yeah, and I'm excited. And Alan Trejo played a little bit last year, and he's listed as a shortstop as well. I'm excited for him. I'm excited for him to get a full season.
Maybe that's what I meant, Trejo, not Tovar.
Well, no, Tovar is listed as a shortstop as well. And, one of these guys are going to be moved over to second base now, Matt.
I think it's going to be – do you think it's going to – what I've heard was Tovar was going to stay there at short, and then that guy was going to go to – I got confused on that whole deal.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think Tovar is going to stay at short. Now they can it's actually a good problem to have, Matt, because
it didn't work out, huh?
Yeah, because it sucks that Rogers got hurt, but now you can get Trejo more playing time. You could throw him at second base now, and it's an easier transition to move from the left side of the infield.
Yeah, middle infield. Yeah,
because it's it's a shorter distance to get the ball over to first base, and then you have we'll see what kind of season that Ryan McMahon. He was touted as maybe the next Rockies franchise face, but
I like him too. I think he was playing out of position. He should have been at third base like from the get go. I felt like
Yeah, and he will be the opening day third baseman, so you have that in place as well. And how about your boy, man, Chris Bryant, raking?
Dude, he's a monster right now.
Raking in spring training. How about this, Matt? 10 at-bats. He's batting 300, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, on-base percentage of 1.264. Give it up.
The Rockies are going to acquire a lot of money in baseballs at the trade deadline when they trade him to a winning team.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy how much more glizzies and extra craft beer we're going to get for the beer gardens when we make a trade for him. What do you think about Brad Hand, the Brad Hand signing? 1-year deal for Brad Hand, who was a tremendous closer in 2020. What do you think about that?
Yes, I actually posted that. So it's funny, I posted that, Matt, and couldn't even tell you what team he played for in 2020. I want to say Tampa.
I think it was the Red Sox, wasn't it?
No idea. But they needed that with the injury to Kenley. I guess Kenley was slotted as a starter, so I don't know if he's really replacing him or what have you. But yeah, they add Brad Hand. Could be I would like to see him as like the 8th inning specialist, and then you hand the ball. Almost said Bird to Bart because I'm looking at the roster. Jake Bird is also a pitcher.
Hand the bird to Bart.
Yeah, and then
we could kind of do that. Hand the bird, hand the bird to Bart. You got it right there.
Yeah, so I would like to see Brad, and he's a lefty, which is a coveted.
Oh
guy,
yeah.
Especially in the bullpen.
Especially in the bullpen. Got to have those big strong throwing lefties. And did you see Marquez throwing 98, 99 the other day?
Yeah, I thought he was hurt. But anyway.
I know. I thought he was hurt too.
So Brad Hand has been around. Started with the Florida Miami Marlins, Padres, Cleveland. Speaking of, Cleveland was on the team he was on in which he led the AL saves. He had a 2.05 ERA that season, and yeah, I mean, this is a guy coming off a career in which he's been on a lot of teams. So we'll see what happens. And he had let me see here. Well, that doesn't make sense. But anyway, I'm thinking out loud to myself, trying to look this stuff up, but. Yeah, I would like to see him as the eighth inning specialist guy. And baseball, they're going to be like, well, how many left-handers are coming up in the 8th inning? Because that's when we'll use them.
That's when we got to save him for the lefty, and he's going to go throw 2 pitches, and then we're going to pull him.
Yeah, it's crazy. According to these stats, Matt, he only had 16 saves in 2020. So that doesn't make sense. Maybe it was 2019.
I thought 2020. Maybe it was 20. We'll have to look again.
Yeah. Well, either way, he had 34 saves in 2019 with Cleveland. So we got the team right, but maybe it was 20.
The year might have been off, huh?
Yeah. But it was a ESPN report, so they got it wrong.
Yeah, that's why I thought I read it. Yep. Give or take, huh? Give or take a couple seasons.
Yeah. So this is a guy who's been in that late situation. We don't know we don't even know if Daniel Bird is going to be healthy enough to even pitch this season. So
Daniel Bird,
he has 131 career saves, in case you're wondering too, and his career era, if you're wondering as well, he had, how about this? He had a 17 ERA in 2012. His career ERA is not bad, man. 3.62.
That's not bad. But I like the idea of like you're saying, the setup guy in the 7th, 8th inning, something like that, to go get the top of the lineup out, and then you bring in the guy to shut everybody down after that.
Yeah, so we'll see what they do. It's the Rockies, so we really don't know what's going on. We're just here for it, Spring training is in full swing. Rockies are 4-4. So Kansas City might walk away with the spring training championship.
Crown them.
You know they give out a trophy for that?
Do they?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
I don't know, but it's kind of, honestly, it's kind of warranted, Matt. You're playing a full month of baseball before the 6-month season even starts.
I never knew they did that. I guess that does make sense.
So,
I wonder if the Rockies ever been in contention for it.
I thought they won it a couple years ago.
I think you're right. Huh.
I think they won it a couple years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I think they did. But I don't know. I couldn't tell you if they did or not. So, Matt, what do you think of some of the rule changes before we get out of here? Obviously, the pitch clock is a huge addition to this upcoming season. And also, how about this? No shifting anymore. So you can't, when a lefty goes up there, you can't have the entire infield on the right side of second base anymore. I like that one.
I like that one too, and I heard some commentary was like, if the shift was on, that would have been an out. I've heard that said a bunch of times. I like it, man. I like the changes. I love the pitch clock, because because batters and pitchers and umpires always have a war with each other when they're up at bat. The pitcher's going to take his time and pitch when he's ready. The batter's wants to be in the box when he's ready, and when he's not ready or feels uncomfortable, he's going to step out of the box. The umpire wants everybody to go, so they're all basically waiting for each other to do something, or waiting for each other's egos. So this time it's on a count, and if you don't pitch in time, it keeps the game going. I don't know if you've seen the social media stuff of they're showing one at bat compared to an entire inning. Have you seen those?
Yeah,
it's great. It's great for baseball. If people come in and start watching it, and not realizing or understanding or remembering it, you're going to forget it even exists by the end of the season, I bet, because you'll get used to it. We just have to get used to it, but I love it.
So really quickly, a rundown of the new rules this season. Obviously, a pitch timer. So the pitcher will have 15 seconds with the bases empty to get the next pitch off, 20 seconds with runners on. So you got a little bit more time to gather yourself with the and then violations are an automatic ball or strike. How about that?
Right.
But
and then you have they can only throw to a base a couple times or something like that.
Yeah. What is the violation for a strike?
I think it's the if you don't throw, if you get a strike, I think the strike is if the batter does something. Because didn't you see the game where the game ended on a strikeout?
No. Did not see that.
Like the batter did something, and
does the batter have a clock too? Because are there a whole bunch of Nomar Garcia Paros now? You remember that?
Yeah, you get on. I love that. Nomar. I don't know. I got to look at the batting thing because I can't remember because I saw it. I've seen it happen, and then the batter get a strike.
I get it if the pitcher takes too long, and then the violation is a ball because the pitcher doesn't want to throw a ball. But
I can't remember what it was. I can't remember how it worked. I got to look at that again though. But I like the rules. I like the new rules.
And then obviously we mentioned shift restrictions, 2 infielders on each side of second base, which is normal positioning. And so there you go. Bigger bases, Matt. We're gonna have bigger bases. So those fast guys who steal bases will have more base to grab onto, I guess. And it's, I guess, good for position players as well. Bases go from 15 inches to 18 inches in width. And larger bases reduce injuries in the minor leagues. I don't know how you're getting injured with bases, but let me tell you from experience, actually, Matt, competitive softball about 10 years ago, there's no sliding in softball, but in competitive softball there is. So I was sliding into second base, and instead of going up over the bag, I hit the bag and went down, and my whole ankle popped.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how a bigger base can avoid that, but maybe they just need to teach people how to slide, I guess. I don't know.
Well, see, that's the thing. I think it's I think it's they're maybe thinking of the bigger bases, like in the second base break up double play scenario. A lot of guys like to swing out to the outside and snap the swipe the bag on that side and grab it. Maybe they're thinking of that. Maybe not stepping on each other on the right, but they should have just put the orange bag on first base, if anything. Remember, the orange bag I'm talking about, the one where when you run out first base, you hit the orange bag so you don't step on the dude trying to touch first and all that jumbo. So maybe it's that, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Bigger bases, more area to slide to, I guess, like you said, but just teach them how to slide and they should be all right.
Yeah, playing first base in softball, man, I've had my ankles running.
Me too. Yep.
Yeah. So
yep, I got claw marks all over my feet. So maybe it was something like to do with that. Hey, the more beer league softball rules into major league is what we need, right?
Yeah, and I keep saying one more thing before we get out of here. But yeah, seriously, one more thing. Do you like and this is already, and obviously all these rules get put into place in the minors and spring training just to test it out, see how it goes. Do you like the starting a runner at second base in extra innings?
Yeah, I don't mind it. It moves along the game. It adds an element of making of being clean out there, And I remember in high school when they would do this rule. You put a guy out there. You have to worry about not throwing the ball away. You have to worry about not throwing the pitch or throwing and making a good pitch. You go out the backstop. That's in high school. I don't know if you're really going to overthrow in major league, maybe, but yeah, because it adds an element of pressure out there on the defense and on the offense.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what these changes do to the game. I was hearing somebody talking about women's competitive softball, how those games are only like an hour and 15 minutes. I get it; they're only 7 innings, but the pitcher gets the ball right back and then does the crazy pitch like seconds later.
The howitzer pitch. Yeah, oh yeah, I love softball. Softball is probably the best to watch.
Yeah, it's crazy how they pitch like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are going to wrap things up here. Want to thank everybody for watching, listening, and this will be turned into a podcast that you can listen wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you go like the Rocky Mountain Sports Network on Facebook, as the title explains, or on Instagram at RockyMTNSN. Follow us on Twitter as well, or at RM Sports Network on Twitter. You can follow Matt at Matt Mascarenas1, and I am at Michael Spillin, or 5280 Sports Radio is the handle there. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well at 5280 Sports Radio. Leave a comment, whatever you feel like doing. But yeah, thank you for being involved. And Matt, what you getting into? Are you watching? I think maybe I've asked you this, but are you watching The Last of Us?
No, I'm not. I haven't had a chance to really get into it. I followed it. Not like the plot but I followed it, and it looks like something that I should probably start watching because it looks pretty freaking cool.
Well, I don't know if you played the video game, but the video game was crazy as well.
I'm familiar with it, yeah, and that's why I'm like, man, that's a crazy video game. So yeah, I think that it should be pretty cool to get into. I think I might. Yeah.
So you have on Sunday nights you'll have Pedro Pascal saving a magical child through the apocalypse, and then on Wednesday you have Pedro Pascal saving a magical Grogu on The Mandalorian. So you have double because Mandalorian season 3 just started last week. So
what do you think about the first episode, real quick?
It's the first episodes are always reintroducing things. So
especially season 3,
Yeah. So, and there was this meme that I saw, Matt, that says, by 2035, Pedro Pascal will be saving magical children in TV shows, as he's doing. He's got 2 right now, so he's already ahead of the curve.
He's there.
Yeah, crazy. Good shows though. So those are on the docket right now as far as shows go. But we're gonna get out of here. Again, thank you for tuning in, listening, watching, and commenting. We will be back next week as I'm predicting a flurry of franchise tags to go down here, maybe in the next couple hours, next couple days, Matt. So keep an eye on the Broncos. Follow everything social that has to do with the Rocky Mountain Sports Network and Elevation 5280 Sports. And as for Matt Mascarenas, I am Michael Spoon. We will talk to you next week.